in the last stream, we were working on finally getting ourselves a basic refined storage system with our new orange crafting grid, our orange controller, and our regular disk drive, which between streams I have filled up with 4 1K storage disks. Previously we had 4 storage housing. Between streams I've made 3 more 1K storage parts, crafted those up with the storage housing to where we now have 4,000 bytes worth of space in our disk drive here. And I've also moved the refined storage system because previously I built it right in the middle of the platform, which not only didn't look great and covered up my storage drawers, but also prevented my wonderful modular router here from shooting items over to the draw controller, which of course eventually was going to cause a backlog of items over here and stop the resources getting to our refined storage system. I have once again connected up the refined storage system to our draw controller. However, it is now connected up under the platform here, so we still do have the external storage on the draw controller connected to the regular controller for the refined storage system. And so now if this had some power, we'd be able to see everything in here, including almost all of the stuff out of our crates. The only crate that I didn't move was this crate right here. We have currently about 1,000 skystone and then over 1,000 flint. And so if I was to try and add all of this stuff here into the current 4 1K storage disks that we have, we would just run out of space and not be able to use the system. I think what we probably want to do is set up a few more storage drawers for things like skystone and flint, which allows them to be used by the crafting grid here without taking up even more space in the disk drive. I think going forward, really any item that we have a large amount of should go into a storage drawer and connect via the draw controller as opposed to taking up disk space. Now, you may notice that currently this is offline, and the reason for that is that the current power source for our refined storage system is this basic magmator that we made a few streams back. And for the time being, I am going to go and grab a bucket of lava to put into that magmator. But one of the things that I do want to do at some point in today's stream is I want to look at getting into some flux networks, which is this mod right at the bottom of the quest line here. And this is a pretty nifty mod that's going to allow us to wirelessly transfer some of the power that we're generating over here with our thermal generator around the base to things like the controller over here, so that we don't have to run just endless energy cables all around the base to connect things up that aren't right next to our thermal generator. That's not what I want to start with though. We'll come back to the wireless power a little bit later on in today's stream, because what I want to start with today, chat, is I want to try and get some wither skeleton bees, because ideally I'd also like to move on and get our first apiary. The apiary is a little pricey. It does require 1 nether star, which I'm hoping we can get today, but essentially the apiary is an upgraded version of the hives that we currently have. If we look at a bee here, for example, like let's say the iron bee currently with a normal beehive will produce 1 iron comb every time that it pollinates and returns to a hive. Using the apiary, and depending on the tier of apiary you have, we're going to start with tier 1, but we can move up to tier 4. Every time an iron bee pollinates, it will produce more and more resources. So with a tier 1 apiary, it will produce 8 honeycomb every single time that it pollinates, which is already 8 times as much as the default beehive, even the very best beehive that we can make right now. But then as we get up to tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4, we can produce up to 8 blocks of iron honeycomb every single time the iron bee pollinates, and each block of honeycomb, of course, equates to 9 individual honeycomb. So essentially, when you get to a tier 4 apiary, you're producing 72 honeycombs every single time the iron bee pollinates, which is pretty crazy, and should hopefully allow us, going forward, to generate more resources with fewer total bees, because right now we do have an awful lot of bees and not really much space to keep them all in. So that's the plan for today. We're going to try and get an apiary. In order to get that apiary, we do of course have to get a nether star. Now, to get a nether star, eventually we can use the wither bee, but until we actually have a nether star block, we can't use the wither bee because the wither bee needs a nether star block to pollinate. And so to get our initial nether star, we are in fact going to have to fight the wither. And to fight the wither, we're going to have to get 3 wither skeleton skulls. And so what I am thinking here is I'm thinking that we will start by breeding together our netherrack bee and our soul sand bees, who I believe are in here. They are. Those are going to produce us the wither skeleton bees, these guys right here. Once we have those, we'll give them a hive. Right now we have no spare hives. I think what I might do is I might temporarily bottle up the ghast bees and like dedicate this room here as a wither skeleton bee room. Now, initially, the wither skeleton bees are not going to produce any wither skeleton skulls because in order to actually produce wither skeleton skulls, they have to be able to pollinate. And to pollinate, they need a wither-proof block. The wither-proof block requires a wither skeleton skull. So as soon as we get our wither skeleton bees, we will leave them in here just so they start growing up, and eventually we can breed them together. While we wait for those guys to grow up, we're going to head on through into the nether, to the nether fortress, and see if we can't fight enough regular wither skeletons to get just the one wither skeleton skull. From there, we can use that to make the witherproof block, use that to pollinate our bees, and then from there, the wither skeleton bees should produce us infinite wither skeleton skulls that we can use to fight really as many withers as we like. So, let's get some soul sand and some netherrack, both of which we can do from directly inside of the refined storage system now, which I'm very happy about. Let's also make sure we have some bee jars on us. Let's grab the soul sand bees, I guess, and we'll move those over into the netherrack pod. We'll give you soul sand, you netherrack, and thankfully this is a 100% chance, so we are guaranteed, so long as it doesn't die, to get a wither skeleton bee, which for now we will put in over here. And in fact, you can have multiple different bees in one beehive. So we could leave the ghast bees in here. I think there are only 2 ghast bees at the moment. We could leave those guys in and just add the witherproof block right here. And then these could both share this one hive. So 1 and 2. Again, this room is made of solid blocks. That doesn't negate fully the chance that these guys will die. Sometimes if they happen to be like close to a block, when they become adults, they will still kind of get stuck and die that way. Hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully in approximately 20 minutes, we'll come back and we'll have 3 adult wither skeleton bees that we can then breed together to produce more wither skeleton bees and then use to produce just as many wither skeletons skulls as we like. For now though, we should probably charge up our jetpack. We are down to just 1 million FE here out of a possible 12 million. I think just shy of 5 million should do for now, chat. Let's do a quick inventory dump over here. We can get rid of some of the stuff we don't need. And let's also make sure we have our emerald sword. And then let's head through to the nether and see if we can't get just the one wither skeleton skull, which might be harder than it sounds. I'm fairly certain that the odds are about 5% on a wither skeleton skull drop. So it's possible we do have to kill upwards of 20 wither skeletons to make this happen. But there are quite a few around here, and the last time we were here, they did keep spawning quite regularly. And this time around, we do have the added benefit of having the jetpack here, which is hopefully going to make our lives a little bit easier. No, that's not how I actually thought we got one. I'm so mad. What is going on? Oh, that guy's head. Oh, that guy's head was like. His head was like glowing, right? When we hit him, his whole body lit up apart from his head. That means this guy guaranteed. Oh, chat. So, we now have, finally, one wither skeleton skull. It took way too long to get. We had to kill 144 wither skeletons, chat, to get one single wither skeleton skull, but we finally have it, and so now we should be able to make a wither-proof block. We just need 4 obsidian, 4 steel scaffolding, and the 1 wither skeleton skull. Boom, and boom. And then obsidian-wise, I actually thought we had some obsidian. Apparently, we do not. However, once again, as we've done before, we should be able to grab a bucket, fill it with water, take that down to our barrel of lava. I'm going to leave this running for a little while, simply because if we are going to get into Flux networks in today's stream and make things like the Flux controller, this guy right here, we do need quite a few Flux blocks. Those require Flux cores. The Flux cores require obsidian to be made. I'm not quite sure how many we're going to need in total, just because you do get these Flux cores in sets of 4, but we'll leave that running just in case. But now, back over here, we should finally be able to set up our Wither skeleton bees, which I have picked up. We did put them down before we went to fight 144 Wither skeletons. When I came back, there was only 1 bee left. I think we originally bred 3. One of them has grown into a full adult Wither skeleton bee. The other 2 must have died at some point when turning from baby bee into adult bee, but I have gone ahead and bred 2 more soul sand and netherrack bees to get 2 more baby Wither skeleton bees. So hopefully we can get more Wither skeleton skulls fairly quickly. But either way, we can throw those in here, and that gets us our wither-proof block. And as I mentioned before, I think for now, I will throw that in here with the ghast bees. We'll do something like this, and then put down all 3 of these Wither skeleton bees. So while we wait for these guys to produce the Wither skeleton skulls, because it might take a while actually, I think that the Wither skeleton comb that they're going to produce only has, I think, a 50% chance of generating a Wither skeleton skull. So if we're going to get 3 Wither skeleton skulls, we're going to need approximately 6 Wither skeleton honeycomb in order to get that. Of course, it's not guaranteed, but you know, you would expect to get 3 Wither skeleton skulls from 6 with the honeycomb. Then again, given our extraordinarily bad luck with regular Wither skeletons, it's possible that it requires even more than that. But while we're waiting for that, we can pivot over and look into getting this wireless RF system up and running. So Flux Networks is a pretty simple mod, but one that is incredibly useful. So one of the first things that we're going to have to do is complete this quest right here to get some Flux Dust. And the Flux Dust is required for basically all of the recipes in the Flux Network mod. You'll see that the Flux Core requires it. The Flux Core is then required to make the Flux Point, as well as the Flux Plug. These 2 both act as the sender and receiver for wireless power. I can't remember exactly which one is which. I always get these mixed up. But the Flux Plug receives energy from adjacent blocks. So you put this down on your power generator. In our case, that's the thermo generator that we have downstairs. And then the Flux Point provides energy to adjacent blocks. So you put this on the block that you want to send your power to. We're going to need at least 1 of each of those. For now, we'll probably set up a very basic Flux Network system where we have 1 Flux Plug on our thermo generator and then 1 Flux Point on our controller here, so we don't have to keep refilling the Magmator every time the refined storage system shuts down. In terms of the Flux Dust here, to make this, you have to go through this system right here. We have to take 1 piece of redstone, place that piece of redstone on a block between a block of bedrock and a block of obsidian, and then we left-click on the obsidian to produce the Flux Dust. So if I'm not mistaken, you can do multiple pieces of redstone at once, and given that we are going to need quite a bit of Flux Dust, I think it's well worth doing a full stack here all at once. So if we take a piece of obsidian and we head on over to our bedrock, which is right about here, I'm fairly certain that what we should be able to do is we place down the bedrock, we place down the obsidian 1 block above the bedrock. We drop the redstone dust between the bedrock and the obsidian, and then much like it says in JEI, we left-click on the obsidian. Normally that makes a much louder sound, but we're doing it next to soundproofing, so it did become quite quiet. Normally that's quite a loud bang, but the obsidian drops, it turns the normal redstone into Flux Dust, and then if we wanted to, we could pick the obsidian up and repeat the process over again for even more redstone in the future. But for now, back over here, the next quest is to make the Flux Core. The Flux Core is made with 4 Flux Dust, 4 obsidian, and then 1 Eye of Ender. I think I will go ahead and make a couple of Eyes of Ender here. We do have 250 Ender Pearls, so I think making 16 Eyes of Ender here really not going to be too big of a deal for us, and we might need 16, potentially more Eyes of Ender fairly soon. They are used quite regularly in the Flux Network mod. Next up, we have a Flux Block, which is made with 4 Flux Cores and 5 Flux Dust, both of which we should now have. Boom. We also need the flux point and the flux plug. These are made, I think, in very much the same way. The flux plug is made with 1 flux block and 4 flux cores, and then the flux point is made with a redstone block and 4 flux cores. So we do need 8 flux cores in total, so we'll get 2 more of those, and then from there, we should have what it takes to make the flux plug, and hopefully also have what it takes, if we get a block of redstone here, to make the flux point. Nice. Now, to bring all this together, we have the flux controller, which is where we can kind of control our flux network. So the flux controller here is 5 flux blocks with 2 flux dust and 1 flux core, none of which we have. So let's get another batch of flux cores here. We are out of obsidian. However, we did leave this running down here. So a little bit more obsidian later. We should now hopefully be able to make quite a few of these flux cores here. I think 20 is about what we need. From there, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flux blocks. In fact, we are going to have to make another batch here. And of all things, we're actually out of the flux dust, which is surprising. I didn't think we'd need more than a stack, but it looks like we are 2 short. Once again, boom, and boom. There's another stack. And that should, I think, be everything for the controller. 1 more batch of flux cores and the flux controller. So with this guy, you could put this anywhere, and I guess for now we'll put it down maybe over here somewhere. In here, what we can do is we can go ahead and create a new network. By default, it's called GamingOnCaffeine's network. That is fine. We'll go and type in coffee as the password there, and we'll select this lovely blue as the color, create. And what we can do now is if we take our flux plug, we can put that down onto the thermo generator. That is this guy down here. I think for now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move the dissolution chamber, and we'll put the flux plug like this. You'll see it's connecting to the thermo generator. In here, we can select the network. We're going to go with GamingOnCaffeine's network. That's now connected. And then if we take our flux point and we bring that up to the controller, we can hopefully, once and for all, get rid of the magmeter, put down the flux point right about here. Again, connect this to GamingOnCaffeine's network, like so. And that should continually, wirelessly, transfer power from the thermo generator over there, up and into the controller. In here, you'll see right now it's transferring anywhere between like 0 and 20 redstone flux per tick. This guy really doesn't use too much power. It uses 14 FE per tick, so that's actually, I guess, what it's transferring. But it's doing it very quickly, so the number's all over the place there. But that is now wirelessly transferring the power from the lower level up and into the controller. One extra really nifty feature of the flux controller here is that right now we have our jetpack, and you'll see right now it's at 2.3 out of 12 million FE. In the Flux network, there is a wireless charging tab. So I think if we select GamingOnCaffeine's network and then go to wireless charging, what we can then do is we can then choose where we want to charge items wirelessly. So we have a couple of options. We have armor slots, which is the one we want to do. There is main inventory, there is hotbar slots, offhand, and main hand. I think for now we can just do armor slots and apply. And we should hopefully start to see our jetpack. Oh, now also we have to enable wireless charging, apply. And then from there, we should start to see, look at that. Our jetpack is now wirelessly pulling slots, pulling power from the thermo generator down here. In fact, if we right click, we might see the number going down in here. Yeah, this number is actively going down, and this should be transferring, I believe, 1,200 FE per tick into the steel jetpack. And so now, going forward, I'm pretty sure no matter where we are, we should be able to continually charge our jetpack using power from that thermo generator. Someone does make a good point that we should set a priority for the flux point in here for the refined storage system. So we can set this to priority 1. That means that the power will always come here before going to my jetpack. So it is quite possible that if somehow this was out of power and, you know, just actively producing it, it would send power to the RS system first and my jetpack could run out of juice. But given that there's no active upkeep on the thermo generator, like it's not like it's going to run out of fuel, we should be good to go pretty much indefinitely. And speaking of priorities, one thing I did set up that I don't think I mentioned is with the refined storage system, when you put an item into the crafting grid, so when we open this up and we put an item in, the refined storage system has to decide where that item goes. specifically whether to put it into the drawer controller, and therefore into one of the storage drawers, or into the disk drive. To give it a helping hand in that, you can set priorities. So whenever you open up something like the disk drive here, there is a priority button, and by default, the priority is set to 0. I have set the priority on this disk drive to -5, so the disk drive here should be the last resort. I'm basically telling the refined storage system, if you can put this item anywhere else, you should put it there before you put it in the disk drive. I think the external storage here is probably still on 0. Oh no, I set this to 5, so this is set higher than the disk drive, and so it should try to put things here first, and then if it can't put the items into here, for example, if one of the drawers is full, or if there's no drawer for the specific item, then it should try and put it into the disk drive, thus making sure that things like ender pearls and iron and redstone go back into this drawer and don't take up unnecessary space inside of our limited disk space. But now the wireless power is set up, back over here, we do have 2 wither skeleton skulls in our item router, somewhat clogging things up. We also have 2 more wither skeleton skulls in our centrifuge there, and in total that does take us to 4 wither skeleton skulls, which of course is more than enough to summon our first wither. And so what I think we're going to do here, chat, is I think we're going to try and use a little bit of a sneaky trick that has been, or an exploit maybe, that has been recommended to me by the Twitch chat. And I am going to make an emerald pickaxe here so I can break that obsidian. But the idea is that if we spawn the wither underneath this bedrock platform, and we put a little platform 1 block above the bedrock, we should be able to trap the wither in this 3x3 platform of bedrock, and then hopefully kill it fairly easily without it flying around and dealing damage to us. That's the plan, at least. To be on the safe side, I am going to tear down this metal press here. We do have our base claimed using FTB chunks. So when you claim an area like this, usually mobs can't deal damage to it. So I'm fairly certain that the wither is not going to be able to deal damage to our platform, even with the metal press here. But just to be on the safe side, we will go ahead and pick all this up. We'll then go and grab at least 4 soul sand. I'll also grab some cobblestone, because I think what we need to do is we need to build a platform, like I mentioned, kind of right about here, because the idea is that the wither is kind of going to get stuck between these 2 platforms. This one doesn't have to be bedrock, but this one does. So now we have to build a wither under here, and to do that, we of course have to kind of dig a bit of a hole, because right now this is not tall enough to spawn the wither. So once we have something like this, we should then be able to do something like this. I think I want that centered, actually, so I'm going to move that over by 1. I'm going to put that like right here. We'll then do this, and I think now, if we put this down, I'm hopeful that this system should work. If it doesn't, we can still fight the wither. We do still have some armor. Our old armor broke from fighting 144 wither skeletons, but we do have some steel armor and a jetpack, so we should hopefully be able to fly around and maybe somewhat keep up with the wither. But let's go ahead and spawn that guy in. Let's move away just a little bit, and I'm kind of hopeful. I'm kind of going to move away a lot, actually. I'm kind of hopeful that he's going to fly directly up into that obsidian, into that bedrock, and to kind of aid him in that pursuit, I'm also going to hang out up here a little bit. I think he has exploded. There's just a lot of sound buffaloes around him. There he is. So look at that. He is, I think we could, if we wanted to make this super cheesy, I think we could actually just leave him here, because you'll see at the top there, he is slowly but surely dying, stuck inside of that bedrock there. But if we want to speed things up a little bit, I think we can do this. You'll see now he's moved up into the bedrock slot. He's kind of stuck between the bedrock and the cobblestone that we built above. Chat, we've done it. Look at that. It's just that easy. And we have our very first nether star. So now we should be able to make an apiary. The only thing standing in our way is 4 tier 4 beehives, which are going to be a little expensive and are going to require a lot of honey blocks, but should definitely be doable. We've definitely got enough honeycomb to make this happen. We've got 9,000 honeycomb right here. So getting all the honeycomb blocks to make all of the different tiers of apiaries should be more than doable. We also have almost 15,000 beeswax as well, so that shouldn't be a problem. Like I said, the main problem, I think, is going to be getting the honey blocks, and for those, we're going to have to once again visit our melter and solidification chamber down on the lower level. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there are all of the tier 4 beehives, and from there, chat, we should now have everything for the apiary. Nice. So if we hover over this and hold down Control, you'll see that the apiary is a multi-block that is 7 by 6 by 7. So I believe it's 6 blocks tall, 7 blocks wide, and 7 blocks deep, which is hollow in the middle. It requires an apiary storage block to validate, and it can also be built using any block that has the valid_apiary tag. So I believe by default, if you hover over any block, you'll see it says stone and then Minecraft. If you press F3H, it will turn on advanced tooltips. From there, if you hover over a block, you'll see a ton more information. If the block says resourceful bees : valid_apiary, which is like the 4th or 5th line down, then that means it can be used to make the apiary. That doesn't really matter too much for us, because I think for now, we're going to kind of stick with the same theme that we've had previously and build our apiary using these oak logs here. So in order to make this, like it mentions in the tooltip, we do need an apiary storage. I also think there is a quest up here for the apiary storage. There is indeed. Thankfully, it's fairly easy to make. It's made with 4 chests, 4 honeycomb blocks, and 1 hopper, all of which we either have or should be able to make fairly easily. Good stuff. And then the way that this is built, or at least what I think is maybe the easiest way to build this, and we could also do with some glass actually. So let me get some sand cooking up here so it's ready to go when we need it. And oh, look at that. Isaac of the Past was on it. He has already smelted up a bunch of glass for us. Fantastic. But for now, let's build this. Maybe like right at the back over here. I might end up moving this and setting up a new area specifically for apiaries in the future. But for now, you want to build it 1 block up above where you want it to be. So put it down right about here. But I also think you want to put it down facing this way. No, maybe that's wrong. Inside the apiary, you can click the little eye to enable preview. Yes, I've done that incorrect. I thought you had to put it down the opposite way, but that is not the case. Make sure you don't drop it in the void. That would be very bad. If you put it down this way and then open it and click on the eye, it will show the preview of the multi-block. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a pretty similar setup to what we have here, where we're going to have oak logs in the sides or on the edges, like this. We're then going to have glass blocks in the middles, like this. Unfortunately, the mob player filters here don't count, so you can't use these in the making of this multi-block. So if you do want to get in or out of the apiary, which we will want to do from time to time, you're going to have to just break the glass to get in, which thankfully is not a huge deal. The glass is not that expensive. Okay, so that is the main bulk of the multi-block. I'm being told that cobble bricks aren't valid. You can test if your structure is valid by right-clicking on the apiary and clicking validate. You'll see that right here we have a bunch of blocks that are not valid, and those are the cobble bricks that we have in the floor here, which is a little surprising given that these are just solid blocks. I really thought that they would work. Thankfully, though, they are fairly easy to replace. Like so. From there, we can quickly fill in the dirt here. And then now, if we open this up and click validate, it's going to validate the structure. So the structure is sound, but it's missing the apiary storage block. I'm fairly certain you can put this basically anywhere within the multi-block structure. I'm going to put mine right about here. And so now, if we open it up, you'll see that we have an actual interface, and that's how you'll know it's actually worked. So the way that this works, and I think we'll use the wither skeleton bees as an example, because essentially now any bee that we put in this new box is going to start producing a lot more combs. And going forward, if we're going to make more apiaries, we're going to have to fight more withers and get more nether stars. So one of the combs that we are going to want to get more of going forward are, of course, the wither skeleton combs, so we can get more wither skeleton skulls. So let's go and grab our 3 wither skeleton bees. So we want to put down the witherproof block somewhere in this room so the bees can continue to pollinate. And then instead of placing the bees down, I believe what we can do here is we can open up the apiary, and then if we have a bee in a jar, you can place it in the left slot and then import the bee. That's then going to add the bee to the apiary. And you'll see right now it has a ticks in hive stat and a ticks left stat. I think what we want to do here is we want to unlock the bee. I think if you leave it locked, the bee will not come out of the apiary. It will just stay in there. So locking it is quite useful if you want to take it out with a jar. But if you want the bee to actually go out and do some pollination, you want to unlock it. So now when the ticks left number hits 0, which should happen any second now, the wither skeleton bee should come out of the apiary. Perfect. It will do what all bees normally do. It'll kind of fly around. Hopefully, eventually, it will find its pollination block. It will do a little bit of pollinating, and then eventually it should come back over into the apiary. Let's go ahead and release the other bees here as well. So all 3 of these are in. Eventually, one of them should come back into the apiary, at which point they will begin a new tick cycle. And once they're done, they'll deposit their combs into this apiary storage. So going forward, instead of requiring something like the item collector to collect all of the honeycombs on the ground, we can just extract all of the combs directly out of apiary storage and pump them directly into a centrifuge. I am being told that only one of each type of bee can go into the apiary at any given time, so you can only have one. You can have as many wither skeleton bees like in the box as you like, but you can only have one wither skeleton bee actually in the apiary at any given time, which should be fine because the bees will kind of cycle through. One will come in, make some combs, then it will leave. Another one that has just pollinated will also go in, make some combs, and then leave, and they'll kind of cycle through with some of them pollinating while some of them make combs, and then, rotating like that. Okay, so one of our bees has come back in, and one really nifty thing about this is now you can actually see how long the bee will be in the hive for before it heads back out again. There are 20 ticks per second in Minecraft, so this guy's got maybe like 15 seconds left before he heads on back out. But once that ticks left number hits 0, we should see, I think, 8 wither skeleton combs appear in the storage slot. Look at that. Beautiful. And the Twitch chat did point out that I was incorrect earlier when I said there was a 50% chance to get the wither skeleton skull. That is incorrect. I misread this page here. You have a 50% chance to get the beeswax. You have a 100% chance to get a wither skeleton skull. If it was a 50% chance on the skull, there would be the number 50 above the arrow here. Much like with the nether star, you'll see the nether star does have a 10% chance, but thankfully with the wither skeletons, you have a 100% chance. And so right here, we have 10 wither skeleton skulls available to us. And so going forward, these bees should continue to pollinate on that block. We can put in multiple bees in the one apiary. So ideally, you want to put in, I guess, 9 different types of bees. Right now, we just have the one type, the wither skeleton. But if we put in the correct blocks, we could move our ender iron block into there, and then we could move our ender bees in. We probably don't need so many of each bee. Like, honestly, one wither skeleton bee would probably do just fine in here because he's going to continue to produce 8 batches of wither skeleton honeycomb at a time. And yeah, the plan going forward is to slowly but surely move all of the bees that we have into apiaries, and then I guess also slowly but surely look at actually upgrading those apiaries, which does require more nether stars, but also in turn produces more resources. I think I showed it before, but going from the regular tier 1 apiary to a tier 2 jumps from 8 comb to 16 comb. And then if you have a tier 3 apiary, it goes up to 4 blocks, and then from there up to 8 blocks, which is equivalent to 72 honeycombs. So we can really increase the production of resources from these bees, and thus therefore reduce the number of bees that we have total. So that's kind of the plan. Ideally, we do want to press forward and see if we can't get the wither bee. The wither bee is fairly easy to breed. It's just a wither skeleton bee and a soul sand bee, and you have a 100% chance of getting it. But then, as with all of the bees, if we want to actually use it to get more nether stars, we have to have a block of nether stars. And so I think in the next stream chat, we might come back and just fight 9 withers using the same method we have here. Once we've fought 9 withers, we can craft a block of nether stars. Once we have a block of nether stars, we can put that into this apiary right here. We can breed a wither skeleton bee with a soul sand bee, get that wither bee, let that wither bee use the nether star block to produce basically infinite more nether stars going forward. And yeah, from there we can make as many apiaries as we like. We can look at breeding the rest of the bees that we don't have, and then using those to get all of the rest of the resources that we currently don't have access to. And then from there, look at moving, of course, on with mods like Astral Sorcery, Blood Magic, and Mekanism through to the end of the mod pack. But for now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's stream there. We made a big step forward today in terms of resource production. So now we should be able to get resources much, much quicker. Next time we'll come back, we'll fight some withers. We will look at probably starting with Astral Sorcery. I've been saying it for a while, but I think we actually will start in the next stream with a little bit of Astral Sorcery and then moving on into Blood Magic after that. For now, though, guys, thank you for watching. and I'll see you next time.